Okay, so we're here with our locals winner. What's your name?
Philip. And
Nice.
I'm also known on the internet as Hockey Grandma. So just so people
Hell yeah. What did you play today, Philip?
I played Mimighoul, which is a new CCG exclusive. It's pretty interesting. Probably one of the coolest CCG exclusives we've gotten, and honestly, the most powerful in a long time, other than maybe like Gold Pride. But I'm playing it with like a small Kashtira engine. I don't like calling it like Mimighoul Kashtira or anything, but there are like some Kashtira cards that I'll get into. But
You wouldn't know that from our games. It definitely was Mimighoul
I didn't
Kashtira.
like play like solely Kashtira cards or anything. So Mimighoul is pretty straightforward. There's only 7 cards so far, and we play 6 of them. There's Master, so he kind of looks like the boss monster. He's just normal. So when he's normal or special, you get to add a Mimighoul monster. The reason why he's at 2, I'm thinking about cutting him down to 1 just because he doesn't really do anything on his own. Like, he adds the monster, and then you don't really get to do anything other than set it to your opponent's field and then flip it up on their turn, which is okay, but doesn't get you to like the multiple bodies or like the follow-up that you really want with drawing the other ones. So he's just good to add if you already have like the dragon or the dungeon. Then I play 3 Archfiends. This one's the kind of the one of the most average ones to give your opponent. It basically plus 2s you, kind of, sort of. When he's flipped up on your opponent's field, just so if you don't know already, all the flip monsters that are Mimighouls right now, you can either ignition effect, set them to your opponent's field, and they all do bad things when they're flipped up. You have a couple ways to make people flip them, but this one, your opponent gets to draw a card, so that would be the Mimighoul player would get to draw a card, and then the controller needs to send a card from their hand to the graveyard, so your opponent, and then they have to give this back to you. So it is a good way to like make them get low on cards. There was a game that I had that he was on 1 card in this, and he needed to flip it to be able to play, and he couldn't. So that was pretty good. The other flip monster is Dragon. This is probably the best monster in the deck. On normal or special, he adds a spell or trap card. Your spell or traps are like the best cards in your deck. You have a field spell that's a road out, which I'll get to. This one also, when you give it to your opponent, if they flip it, it Raigekis all of their face-up non-Mimighouls and then gives it back to you. So there are some situations where you can set this. They can't flip it themselves, and then you do that on purpose to Raigeki their field of their face-up monsters. The spell and traps play 3 dungeon, 3 maker, and 2 room. All these cards are fantastic. Dungeon and maker are the most powerful cards I've ever seen. This card is like, so it's not on activation, but as an ignition, you get to add a Mimighoul monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So it is like Ghost Ogreable, as well as like Bellable and stuff like that. So they can interact with this a lot more than you think. But this is just really good consistency. So you can go like Dragon add this to add something else to set to their field. You do get a lot of benefit off of it. It also has like this extremely strange floodgate effect where if your opponent controls a set monster, they can't normal summon or attack with monsters that were special summoned this turn. So it's like kind of Mystic Mine. It's a really minor floodgate. It's more of a speed bump most games, but it is annoying enough. Like if you can book one of their guys, like with the trap or with room, or some other way that you can set it on their turn where they can't just flip it face up. They basically don't get a normal summon the whole turn until you interact with their set monsters, which can be very good. And then they can't attack and clear your guys. For some reason, it also has another effect that says your Mimighoul monsters that weren't normal or special this turn. So basically any turn...
Attack.
Yeah, they gain attack equal to their defense. So Dragon becomes a 25 because 2k plus 500. The Master becomes 3k because 18 plus 12. And then the Archie only is a 1900. But your guys get way bigger than you'd think on top of all that, which is crazy.
It's only like the 4th overpowered field spell we got.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is really good follow-up too. Like I said, it's an ignition effect, so you got to keep doing that turn after turn. And this is kind of a grindier deck. You're probably going to go to turn 3, turn 4.
It's the field spell Virtual World can never get.
Yeah, exactly. I wish Virtual World had a field spell that was half as good as this.
Even the first effect alone.
Then if that card wasn't good enough, if you already have this card, you can search Mimighoul Maker. Mimighoul Maker, another insane card. You reveal 2 flips. They can be any flips. a lot of people think this deck is like a flip monster deck. It's really not. It's a Mimighoul deck. Like, you can give them Hero Shadow Scout or Flame Sorceress or like all these like really bad for your opponent cards. You really don't want to do that because it's random which of the 2 flips that you reveal from your deck they get. So if you get that card to your hand, you have to like set it to your field, and you want it to be something bad. It just doesn't really make much sense. Typically what you're doing is you're revealing Dragon and Archfiend. And if they get Dragon, they have a Raigeki set up, and you can normal summon or special summon off of this card, because after you set the monster and add the other, you get to special summon any Mimighoul from your hand. So you can normal this, flip their guy, bring it back, so you'll have 2 level 1s, which is kind of good. In addition, if it's in your grave and your opponent normal or specials a monster, you can force them to flip one of their monsters. Does come up. And then lastly, the Mimighoul Room, the normal trap. This card was way better than I thought it was going to be. What it does is you get to take a Mimighoul monster from your deck, and you either add it to your hand or set it to your opponent's field, and then you get to book one of their monsters. So you get to force them to have 2 set monsters that they can't flip that turn. So if they're under the dungeon, they can't normal summon. You get to book one of their guys, which usually you're making it so they can't link off a material, like they go like Lurie or whatever. You book it, and then you give them like a dragon that you'll flip up later to Raigeki their board. So it gives you quite a few interrupts. It has like a secondary effect that I never activated, where you can banish from your grave, and you get to return any amount of Mimighouls from your field to your hand. Sometimes you do get clogged on zones, so that could come up. So that's it for the Mimighouls. And non-engine, I guess let's show the Kashtiras first. So Kashtiras, like I said, I have a small Kashtira package. I was on 2 Unicorn, 2 Fenrir, a Planet, and a Birth. Reason why we're playing these is because you can force your opponent to activate effects on your first turn. So you can trigger the Unicorn on your turn and then on their turn, so you get to rip 2 from their extra. So you get to take the Lacrimosa or the Requiem or the Sequence from their extra. This card was incredible. I'm thinking about going to 3 Unicorn and 1 Fenrir just because of how incredible Unicorn was. Unicorn is also 2 link material because you can go Birth, link one of your guys off, bring back the Unicorn. So it's like it does like IPSP stuff pretty easily with your deck, which is something that you do want to do with this. Yeah, you kind of do the Gen and Ken thing where you get to force them to activate effects on your first turn, and you get a plus off of that. Fenrir's not quite so good at that just because they're not going to have anything for you to banish on your first turn, so it doesn't really do much. It's just kind of a body. Yeah, so very small Kashtira. The non-engine I played, 3 Ash, 3 Imperm, and of course this asshole Dimension Shifter. Your deck does not care at all about stuff that's in your graveyard. Like, you have the trap has a grave effect and the normal spell has a grave effect, and like sometimes you want to add guys out your grave off a room, but you really don't care.
Konami, please
deal with this card, please. This you just play this because you can right now. Maybe the future support, maybe you won't want to play this, or it gets banned. Hopefully one or the other.
Wasn't it make it like a fusion deck or something? And
then speaking of the Gen and Ken stuff, you get to do Triple Tactics Talent and Thrust.
That's the only time I feel like Thrust and Talent become overpowered.
Yeah.
Is when you can use them on your first turn without
your
opponent even trying.
There are multiple times where you go like Archfiend, and rip a card, and then you rip another card.
Yeah,
like I did that. I did that. I didn't lose the game today, but like every game was like just 1-for-1s like that. They just made it so my opponent didn't really have anything, and then I had like 1 or 2 to 3 interruptions, and it just was enough, which was really cool. But yeah, these cards are absurd. I don't know if I played 3 Thrusts, but I definitely am thinking about 3 Talents. This, you get to set the room. You also have Engine, like I play Terraforming to search either the Kashtira field spell.
The thing about Thrust is because you give them a monster, Thrust
this will be live.
Search any spell.
It's kind of more of a 2-card combo to have this be live on your first turn to add a normal spell. But it does happen. So this ends up being extra copies of this, and then you can use it to get into, like, if you don't already have cash monsters or you want your dungeon, you can get into the Terraforming, which is good. Then Consistency, play 3 Prosp, and then the Azarune for the Silhouette Rabbit. So, cool. Prosp is good. I mean, it's a crazy card. You don't really care. You
Good
care.
is an
You
understatement.
care about your extra deck. There are times where you banish 3, but you just play a lot of like generic, like good stuff links. Like I have Nightmare Unicorn, Nightmare Phoenix, IP, access code. You make a lot of bodies, so like the access code, climb into Unicorn, like that kind of stuff does come up. And of course, SP to go with the IP and just general good card. A Griffin, a Dark, and then Silhouette Rabbit for the trap. You do make Silhouette Rabbit a lot going first, just because you very easily get to 2 bodies plus like a Kashtira or your Master plus your Field Spell and your trap. And then I don't have... There's number 13 and number 31 that are like kind of tailor-made for this deck. I don't have that, so I was playing Donner just because sometimes you'll want to clear your zones.
It empties your field, pops a card.
Pops a card
on the field.
Yeah, you get to actually like do stuff with your Birth and your Fenrir and stuff, which is fine. It didn't come up today. It was usually just Prosp food. Anima, you play a lot of level 1s. It just comes up sometimes, so you just play it. And then XEs, 2 rank 1s that I played were Assemblu and Nightingale. This is just to make Zeus, so you have Downward Zeus. And then this is just a reasonable interruption to make with 2 bodies. It's 2 bounces of special summon monsters, and then Typhon.
Cool.
So you do summon out of the extra deck quite a bit. I know a lot of people think that this deck you're not going to, but you do pretty frequently. It's just once or twice. I do think this deck would be really good against the Phawaros that's coming out too, which is very cool. I guess I could do the...
Are we going to see a side deck today?
Yeah, side deck's fine. I'll show side deck. All your guys are different types. Geekboo, unfortunately. Judgment, when you go first, you just like having stuff like that to negate like board breakers, negate summons, like negate summon a princess. Nice deck. Bunch of thrust shit. Talent, 3rd copy of that. Duster, Change of Heart, Mind Control, Kirageki, 2 Lightning Storm, 3 Dark Ruler. The deck is really good going first, so I don't have a lot of going first cards. I just have these 4, and then arguably the talents because you trigger it first turn on your own. But it's just a lot of like going second stuff. Usually, if you can get your opponent in a simplified board state, the deck seems pretty good. But yeah.
Cool. Any last words?
Not really. I'm really excited to see what the new cards are going to be for this deck. It's probably the most fun I've had playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In a while, so I like playing this deck, and yeah.
That's cool.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.